My yad. So, okay. Next up, we have Justin Jackson and Jon Buda. Is it Buda? Jon Buda?
It's Buddha.
Okay,
Yep.
great. These guys, they run Transistor FM, fantastic podcasting platform that Daniel and I use for No Plans to Merge, and I now use for my personal podcast. Super cool dudes, super cool app. Justin has sort of like come into the Laravel community and like as a like marketing guru and also like
Resident jackass.
and he's emceed a few Laracons. He's just the coolest guy. And he's so kind enough to listen to our show, which is crazy. We're always surprised that Justin even listens.
I'm your number one fan of millions. You have millions of fans, and I'm just the number one.
Because he has
literally
analytics.
of us.
Okay, so these guys are the best, and they use. I think Transistor is the perfect application because it's just like built using all the things that I love building apps with. It's simple, back-end driven, and uses Alpine for sprinkles. But I'll let them tell you all about that. So here's Justin Jackson and Jon Buda.
Beauty. All right, so John and I are going to try to steer this ship together. Can I share my screen? Nope, I can't.
Let
Soon-
me. Caleb,
soon as
can
I
you
get
give me the
that.
ability? Oh, now you can.
All right, beauty.
Grant us the power.
Yeah.
Grant us the power. So, we're not the point of this talk is not to blow your minds with, crazy tech or anything. Really, what we're trying to do is paint a picture of what it's like to start a software company in your late 30s. And John, do you remember this photo here?
I do. Yeah, this was in my new place before it was painted. I think there was a couple camping chairs in the living room, and you slept on an air mattress.
That's right. And this is like we met up after we had decided to build this company together, and this was our first time meeting, and this was like our first real hustle on the app together. And this really changed our lives. We eventually built Transistor.fm, which has thousands of customers and has, it's done really well. And we've been able to do it as a small 2-person software company. And that's kind of what I'm really excited about sharing. I think John is too, how 2 people, until recently, it was just 2 of us, can build something that can make a big impact, and not just with cool tech, but also like change your life as an indie developer, even as a developer on a team, as someone who might want to build a startup someday. And like, I like the contrast of these 2. I added a new slide, John.
You did.
Here's the software, but this is really what it enables us to do. And I think our goal for this presentation is to inspire you to make simple, elegant software that solves real customer problems, but in turn gives you a better, more profitable, more fulfilling life. And hopefully it resonates. So from the beginning, John, we were later on in our careers, we had a couple decades in software.
Some success, some failure.
Yeah, but I think we kind of felt like, we've been around the block. At one point, I said, I feel like Rocky. Like, I feel like Transistor's kind of my last chance, But then you told me there's like 5 Rocky movies, so we had a few kicks at the can. But our goal was to build something small, calm, and profitable. And because we were growing this organically, we could kind of steadily define our values over time. And we've got this open GitHub repo that anyone can go and look at. And we've written out our values over time. And I just want to zoom in on these 3, really. Is this decision going to make our lives more busy or more complicated? Is this decision going to make the company heavier or slower? And in 6 to 12 months, will this decision cause us to feel less excited about building Transistor? And Jon, I think for you, you're the tech person, like you're the primary developer on this project.
Right.
I think that last one is something that we've really taken to heart, right?
Yeah. There's been a lot of things we've said no to as far as different software to use or different features to build that I think would just lead us down the wrong road and cause some pain and misery in the future.
Yeah. And again, from the beginning, we wanted to build software that was incredible to use, that really helped customers accomplish what they wanted to accomplish with podcasting. But we were also very clear that we were building this for us too. And I think whether you're on a team, whether you're a solo founder, whether you're building your own indie project, your values should help determine what type of software you build. And hopefully you'll kind of see that as we go along here. So Jon, do you want to just quickly go through our stack?
Yeah. So our stack is pretty simple. It's Ruby on Rails on the back end. That's what I know best, and I've been using for a decade or more. We're kind of leveraging the simplicity of Rails and having everything rendered on the back end, letting Rails render the HTML. Postgres for the database, Redis for some caching and background jobs. Everything's hosted on AWS, Elastic Beanstalk. It's nothing fancy like container services or using Docker. A couple different CDNs on top of that for hosting our media files. And as far as JavaScript, it's really as little as possible, as little as we can get by with. Currently, it's Alpine, and we use Vue for the embed player because I knew that when we built the player, and we weren't using Alpine at the time. So we could probably switch to Alpine for that at some point. And then we're using Tailwind for the CSS, which we switched from Semantic UI from earlier on. And Tailwind has been great. As much as I love CSS, I don't miss writing it. So thanks. Thank you, Adam.
And we were joking before, like in the Laravel community, they have the tall stack, which is Tailwind, Alpine, Livewire, and Laravel. And we were joking, we have the tar stack, Tailwind, Alpine, and Rails. Or though you were saying we could have the tarp stack too, which would be,
yeah.
Put Redis and Postgres in there too. Tar stack, we're going to make it a thing. So I think it might be interesting to some folks listening to this, because they're maybe trying to build their own open source tools for developers. I sometimes joke that you're kind of a grumpy developer, like you're pretty set in your ways. You don't like switching if you don't have to.
Yeah, I try to use what I know and what's productive for me. And I think I've skipped over a couple different movements in software, like single page apps and things like that, Docker and container infrastructure.
So we switched from Semantic to Tailwind. And then kind of along with that from jQuery to Alpine, do you want to quickly describe like what caused you to switch? What changed your mind?
Well, I can go back a little further too. There was what caused me to use Semantic. So like I said, I was building it in Rails. I didn't want to build a dashboard system from scratch, a design system. And at the time, this was, I think I started late 2017 on this. Semantic UI was one of the ones that was available, and it had support for Rails. But with that, it came with a bunch of pre-built components in like CSS and JavaScript that use jQuery, right? So, I don't love jQuery. It's kind of getting a little long in the teeth, but it did enable me and enable us to build Transistor very quickly and launch it as fast as we could and get it out to customers and like test the waters and test the market. And, I could have spent months like refining my Vue.js chops, but it would have pushed back our release by months, and I just didn't have time for that. So later on, we wanted to make a big design upgrade to our dashboard, which is why we chose Tailwind. And along with that, we had to choose a new JavaScript framework to replace all the built-in things that Semantic had. And you had mentioned Alpine, so I took a look, and it was very familiar to me as far as the syntax because of how similar it is to Vue, but it was just much, much simpler and more lightweight and perfect for what we needed, which was adding JavaScript onto pages that were rendered by Rails, not building out this whole JavaScript framework that loads the whole app.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if I've told Caleb this story, but I randomly found like a video of Caleb talking. He was like in his closet filming himself talking about Livewire, and I had no idea what he was talking about. I couldn't understand it technically, but I could just see how fired up he was about it. And that was kind of what led me eventually to Alpine. And I was the one that brought it to you, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And if you are building open source tools, just like your enthusiasm, your connections in the community, building relationships, all of that stuff can be really helpful for kind of spreading the word. Why don't we switch screens here, and maybe you can just take folks through a transistor feature and show how we've used Alpine in it. Again, not to blow any minds, but to show how people can build simple, elegant applications that can change their lives.
Yeah, so we're not, like I said, we're not doing anything crazy with Alpine, although I'd love to be able to at some point. But we have, little sprinkles around, like obviously we have drop downs. We have these modals that get popped up. We have another drop down here. That's all driven by Alpine click events in combination with Tailwind. And so the example here is Justin's private podcast for the Mega Maker Club. And on this page, this is just the episodes page, but on the subscribers page here, which is where we manage people's subscriptions via email, this list is actually rendered in Alpine. We could have rendered it all with Rails. This is one of the only pages I think we actually have Alpine rendering out a table list. So, what we wanted to do here was allow a little bit more interaction when editing and managing subscribers. So for each subscriber, they have a little drop-down menu where you can do a few things to each subscriber. One of the things is you can change an email address. So I can change this to, let's say, Justin +9, save the changes. There's an error that pops up, but this is all done kind of inline and live. We're firing off a remote request to the Rails controller. It's returning back some JSON, and we're listening for a built-in Rails JavaScript event, but Alpine is actually listening for that event and handling, updating the error and adding the error class. So I can successfully change it here. This was changed in line without the page reloading. I can also do something like resend a welcome email to Justin. This is going to update this notified at date in line, pop up a notification up here. I can delete Justin without reloading the page. Just makes it a little bit easier.
This is all magic to me. Yeah. It's just magic. It's incredible.
That's pretty much, those are the types of things we use Alpine for, but it's just been really nice and easy to use. I can show you the code here. Real quick. Hopefully people can see this. So this is just a basic Rails ERB template, which is just HTML and Ruby and Alpine together. So this is the table that I showed earlier. We're actually just rendering this list of subscribers as JSON directly from Ruby and Rails. We have a number of events that we're listening for that are fired off in a separate JavaScript file. And what we're doing here down below is just using the Alpine for loop to loop through those subscribers and have Alpine render out each table row. So each subscriber has a number of attributes available to them. They have a URL, which is an internal page within Transistor. They have an email address. They have an ID. They have a couple different like notified and created at dates. And for each subscriber, we have a number of events that can happen. There's a drop-down menu for each subscriber. We have modals that are fired off for updating your email or viewing your subscribe URL. We have Rails these are Rails remote requests that just resend the email. And again, we have some listeners in this template that listen for the, where's that here? So if we, let's say, delete a subscriber, we're going to fire off this subscriber removed event. It's going to filter through the list of subscribers that are defined here, set the ID of that subscriber to null, which will actually hide that subscriber in the table because we use the xshow property for Alpine.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. We have Alpine sprinkled all over the app. Just clicks here, hit escape to close a menu. This is probably the most complicated use that we have, but.
And what I love about this too is that it's readable enough that even a jackass like me can figure it out. I can get in there. Sometimes I have to update copy or whatever, and even I can look at that, and the code is all readable. So, where are we now? Yeah, so your tech should really be the right size for you and your team. That's kind of our point, right? Like, we're not doing anything crazy. This works for us because it's simple. It works for us because it gets the job done. And it works for us because we're able to have the size of company that we want, which is in our case, 4 people.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe ask yourself, like, do we really need to build this as a crazy React single page app on top of our API? Do you really need microservices? If it's a side project for fun, go for it. But if you're trying to build a project,
this is one monolithic Rails app that's deployed with one command. There's no multiple servers, there's 2 servers, but there's not microservices that are communicating with each other. So we just really try to keep it as simple as possible for both of our sanity.
Yeah. And this is a good picture. Like, I think if you're building your own little project, your own little indie project, or if you want to build a business, the rapids here, this is a perfect picture of John and I. The rapids are like customer demand. Like, that's people wanting what you're building, and you need to have that momentum. But if you're going to shoot some rapids, don't bring your yacht to the rapids, right? Bring a canoe or bring a kayak. You want to right size the tech, the tools, the frameworks you choose to use, so that it's right for the environment. And for us, Alpine, Rails, Tailwind, that's the right size tech for the rapids. Now, if you're a bigger team, maybe you are like, you've got a shipping container ship that's trying to get through the Panama Canal, but we don't know much about that. Here's some principles that I think we'll just leave you with. Simple tech stack, I think, equals calm life and calm company. And I think this is a principle big companies can apply as well. Make your employees' lives better. If you're building your own projects, make your own life better. Complexity does not necessarily equal a better app, a more profitable business, or a happier team. And I think it's worth asking, and we still ask these questions all the time. What's the simplest tech we could use to bring this to market? And most importantly, how costly will this be to maintain? And I think I don't know. John and I like working on Transistor. Like, we think it's fun, right, John? Like, it's enough of a technical challenge.
I still love it. Yeah.
But some people might say, well, this is boring execution or boring app or whatever. But I think boring is fine if it means it gives you a better life. And so that's the approach we've taken.
And Alpine makes it fun.
I got to learn some more. I learned a little bit of Alpine.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's in the new version.
Beauty. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, fellas. Like I said, Transistor is my dream app. It your tactics that you use building it is totally right in line with my philosophies as well. Love it.
Thank you.
Long live the monolith. All hail the monolith.
Yes. Bow down before the monolith.
That's fantastic.
And tarp stack, everybody. Let's
Tarp
make it a
stack.
The
thing.
tarp stack. Stay dry.
I have a quick question about that canoe picture. You said it's a picture of you and John. Which one is the front guy and which one is the back guy? That's it's hard to see.
I think
squint.
John is the one in the back. He's like steering the ship. He's the steady
Okay,
hand.
yeah.
And I'm the aggressive one going, oh, let's go over there.
Justin's out there yelling and
Okay.
And falling out.
Just
I'm the hollerer. You know, every boat trip down the rapids has someone hollering. That's me.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
the,
Yep.
the yoo-hoo.
Spreading the word.
Yep. Gotta have it. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
Love
thanks.
to see it.
All right.